Hello, this is Brooks, and you're listening to the Books with Brooks podcast in a very special episode with two very special guests. Eve and Julie are here with us today from the Book Dreams podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. It's a
We are
treat to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for being here.
okay, now we have to get used to taking turns talking.
Right, there's a third person on your show. It's me.
Exactly.
Thank you both. We have a really fun episode. Well, I guess it'll be kind of two episodes, really, because this episode we're gonna sort of assign books to each other. Then we're gonna go home and do our homework, and we're gonna read the books, and then we're gonna come back and talk about them on a later episode. But I would love, Julie and Eve, can you tell me about your podcast and what you guys do and why my Books with Brooks fans should check you out?
Absolutely. First, this is me, Eve, and I just want to say I am so excited about what we're doing today. It just feels like a really fun game. It is a really fun
It
game,
is.
and I'm excited to know what everybody's choosing. So, I'll give you my bio, but it's kind of the same bio as Julie's because we are both children's book authors and we've been friends for a long time. And we decided to start Book Dreams together about a year and a half ago. And we just wanted to do something that brought us joy. And we were brainstorming what brings us joy. And of course, books bring us tremendous amounts of
Of
joy.
course.
And so we've started this podcast, and we describe it. The way we describe it is we like to say it's the podcast for everybody who loves books and misses English class. Because every week,
Oh, I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
that kind of sums it all up.
Mhm.
Yep. So every week we have a different episode. Every Thursday we release a new one, and in most of our episodes we interview an expert of some kind, somebody who's answering a book-related question for us. And sometimes it's an author and we have questions about their books, and sometimes it's someone who has some kind of expertise that relates to books. So, for example, we've spoken to people about, rare books. It was something we knew nothing about, and we talked to Nico Lowry, who's a dealer of rare books, about that whole world, which was
Mm.
really fun.
Mhm.
And then we've also talked to authors. Julie, do you want to give a couple of examples of some recent people we've spoken to?
Sure. Our most recent episode is with Rebecca Falkoff, who wrote a book on hoarding, which was really fun.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, we have an episode coming out with Lori Frankel, who has a brand new book out called 123. She's a New York Times bestselling author. We have an episode with Jasmine Mans, which we love. She's a spoken word poet who has a new collection of poetry out. And that was just a terrific episode. Who else, Eve, recently? Simon
Oh, well,
Winchester. Yeah.
one of our um, one of our most popular episodes is one we released just a few weeks ago with Megan Rosenblum, and she wrote a book about books made from human skin, which
Yes.
which was
I love
way
that.
more fun than you might think.
Right,
That's
right.
super weird. I'm so into it. I know my fans will love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So people should give it a try. And Brooks, do you want to describe your podcast for our listeners?
I would love to. So I am an avid reader. I am not an author myself. I aspire to be. I really, really admire people who are able to sit down and write books. What an amazing feat to accomplish. So I'm an avid reader, and I started a book club in Chicago 3 years ago, called Books with Brooks, obviously. And then it morphed into a podcast. So Books with Brooks is a monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month, and then members of the book club come on and we talk about it and we dissect it. We read a really wide variety of books. We lately have been dabbling in like really famous authors with huge I always want to say discography. Is there a name for the book version of that where you have just like tons of books out?
Oh, you mean like the whole opus of their audiobooks.
Yes,
Is that
like
what you're
yes.
saying?
So like the Harlan Cobens of the world, the Stephen Kings of the world. Um we've read Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. We've read the latest the sequel, well it wasn't really a sequel, but I guess it was the second book by Emily St. John Mandel.
Mm.
She wrote Station 11 and then followed it up with now the name is escaping me. But we read a wide variety of books. There are
Is
different every month.
the Glass Hotel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glass
Yeah.
Hotel. Yes. So we read a different book every month. We do 2 episodes a month. One of them is always discussing the monthly book, and then the other is something like this, where we have guests on, or we talk about sort of bonus books that we didn't read officially in book club, but that are popular and that people may have read on their own.
That sounds so much
It's
fun.
very fun. We are coming up on our, like, 4-year book club anniversary, which is crazy, and I love talking to people who've been in book like, there are book clubs who have been going for, like, 25 years, and I aspire to be that someday.
Well, it sounds like you found
Yeah.
some kind of secret recipe because I think I'm most people, and I'm definitely including myself in this, have experiences with book clubs that don't last quite that long. So this sounds super fun. What's your next book?
Oh, great question. Our May book is the new book out by stand-up comedian Mike Birbiglia. It's
Oh, yeah.
called
I love
Stories of a Reluctant Father. Um and I have not started it myself, but I'm getting great feedback that it is extremely hilarious from people who are reading it. And it's also one that I would highly recommend you listen to on audiobook because he reads it and it's in his voice and
Mm.
he's such a funny comedian. So if you like audiobooks, this would be a great one to try out.
Ooh, that's great to know.
excellent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Books with Brooks. Check us out on Instagram.
Yes, everyone, check Books with Brooks on Instagram.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
should we start our fun game?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Excellent. So we haven't decided who's going to go first.
Do you want me to set it up? I can do that. Okay.
Sure.
So,
Set
all
it
right.
up.
So our thought was that we would have an episode that we would call "You Want Me to Read What Now?" and we would all choose without. We haven't told each other yet what we're choosing, but we're choosing a book that's kind of off the beaten path to recommend to each other. And so each one of us will recommend to another, and then we'll take a break and we'll go and read this kind of wacky choice of a recommendation. And then we'll all reconvene and we'll tell each other what we thought.
Yes.
So we've decided just before we press record, we decided that I am going to recommend to Eve to Brooks, and Brooks to me.
Yes.
So are we ready?
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles.
And me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new,
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite.
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next.
A part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
I'm kind of nervous.
Okay. I know.
Nervous
This is
slash
nerve-wracking.
included. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Here is what I am going to recommend to you, Eve.
Okay.
Okay. It is a book by the author of the Sweet Valley High series, whose name is Francine Pascal. I have never read the Sweet Valley High series.
Nor have I.
How-
I haven't either.
However, when I was a kid, somehow I got my hands on this author's very first book, which is called Hanging Out with Cece. And I have this I can see the cover. I have this mass market paperback edition of Hanging Out with Cece. And I loved this book. It was like a special little treasure. I don't know fully why. And then I forgot about it. And then I was at home in my brother's room.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, this was when I was in college and he, was college age as well. It was sitting on his nightstand.
And have you ever asked him about that?
No,
Okay.
I have
okay.
not, but I picked it up.
Well, because we
I-
don't shame people about, we don't believe
No.
in books for girls, books for boys. Books
Oh,
are
definitely.
for everyone. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
No,
For sure.
I love that it was sitting on his nightstand. So I picked it up and I reread it and I was like, hanging out with Cece. I haven't thought about this in so long. And I was so excited and I reread it and I loved it again. And then I kind of forgot about it again for decades. And then I saw that it had been re-released
Mm.
by the publisher. So this is a book that I don't know another soul who has read Hanging Out with Cece. And I somehow have never really recommended Hanging Out with Cece.
I can't
So
imagine
I'm
why.
well, hush now. And so speaking of not shaming, and so I want to know, is it any good? Like, is it just me?
All right, and I have two
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
The first is, and I'm really really hoping for a particular answer to this question. Is the book called Hanging Out with Cece or Hangin' Out with Cece?
Okay, I'm gonna disappoint you.
Ah,
It has a G.
oh God.
Oh.
Or 2 Gs, I should say. Yeah, it's hanging out with
Okay.
Cece, but who can say that? It's hanging out with
It's
Cece.
totally
Hanging
hanging out with
out.
Cece. And then the other
Hanging
thing is
out.
I have an image
Yeah.
in my mind of the original cover. And is it an illustrated cover or is it a photograph cover? Because if it's a photograph, I'm picturing that kind of 70s kind of blurred out, like the cards with the kittens on them, that kind of, is it that?
Mm. It's like in my mind. Hold on, I'm looking this up to see if I can find the old version.
I'm picturing like a Nancy Drew like illustration. That's what I'm
Mm.
picturing.
Oh, you're thinking
No,
younger, maybe,
it's like
Brooks.
a this is
Oh.
not the one that I had, the one they're showing. It's like mostly white, and then in my the one I remember, it has it's one of those ones that like it's mostly white, but then it has a circle kind of centered, maybe a little top centered a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. And that circle has like a colorized photo.
Yes. Colorized.
Yes.
Yes. I'm also picturing
Yes.
feathered hair and stripes.
Yeah, I believe her hair was
Of
feathered.
course it
I don't
was.
remember if her top was striped.
Okay, that makes up for the lack of the hanging.
Hanging out.
The
Is
feathered
this I have a
hair.
question.
Yes.
Is this book is it young adult? Is it or what age group
They
is it?
it's the I believe that she's about 14. So
Okay.
it's like young adult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Young teen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I cannot wait. Thank you.
Hanging out
You're
with
welcome.
Cece.
Hanging out
Woo!
with Cece.
We can title that for the next part of this episode. Hanging out with Brooks and Julie and Eve.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm excited to read it.
Sure.
So,
Excellent
Okay,
choice.
so
Yeah.
Brooks.
Oh, good. I'm so excited.
Are-
All right, Eve, your turn.
Okay. Before I tell you the title, Brooks, I just need to ask you, how are you with things like gore and cannibalism?
Oh, into it.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I read the Donner Party, a book about the Donner Party, and then I wouldn't stop talking about it for like 2 years, and everyone thought it was very weird, but I
Oh,
really
good,
like all the
good, good, good.
details.
Okay, then we may have a winner here. So the
Okay.
book I want to suggest for you is a debut novel. It actually just came out recently, it came out in December, by Chelsea G. Summers, and it's called A Certain Hunger. Have you heard of it?
I have not. Tell me more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Chelsea G. Summers' elevator pitch for this book is Eat, Pray, Love meets American Psycho.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. And I have to confess, I have actually not read this book, so I'm going to be reading it along with you.
Oh,
But
yay.
it came highly recommended to me by my son, who is an adult. He's 23, and he just loved it. And oddly, he's a vegetarian, but he said this book made him want to eat meat.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and when I tell you what it's
Human
about,
meat?
what's that, Julie?
I said human meat?
Well, that's the thing I'm really curious about because and here's what the New York Times said: A Certain Hunger has the voice of a hard-boiled detective novel, as if metaphor-happy Raymond Chandler handed the reins over to the sexed-up femme fatale and really let her fly. Is what the Times said. But I'll read you the description because I can't summarize it myself because I haven't read it. And this is it. Food critic Dorothy Daniels loves what she does. Discerning, meticulous, and very, very smart, Dorothy's clear mastery of the culinary arts make it likely that she could, on any given night, whip up a more inspired dish than any of the chefs she writes about. Dorothy loves sex as much as she loves food, and while she's struggled to find a long term partner that can keep up with her, she makes the best of her single life, frequently traveling from Manhattan to Italy for a taste of both. Okay, so we've already got New York and Italy and food and sex,
Mm,
and
mhm.
then here's where it gets
Very
interesting.
moody. I'm into it.
Yeah. But there is something within Dorothy that's different from everyone else. And having suppressed it long enough, she starts to embrace what makes Dorothy uniquely, terrifyingly herself. Recounting her life from a seemingly idyllic farm to table childhood, the heights of her career, to the moment she plunges an ice pick into a man's neck on Fire Island, Dorothy Daniels shows us what happens when a woman finally embraces her superiority.
Ooh,
Yes.
I have to say,
interesting.
hanging out with Cece is seeming very changed.
Okay, I also have to tell you that when I was a sophomore in high school, we did a banned book project and we had to choose a book from
Mm.
the banned book list. And
Mhm.
I chose American Psycho, and
Ooh.
I shouldn't have been allowed to do that.
Why? No,
I
of
was
course you
way
should.
too young. No, no, no. I feel like I've never been the same. That book
Oh,
is
oh, oh. Mhm,
disturbing, and I was 15 and shouldn't
mhm.
have read it then. Anyway, I'm older now. I'm much more mature. I'm sure this will be fine.
Is this
Okay,
going to
but
trigger, do
if
you
you just
think?
yeah, if you decide
No.
that this is too disturbing and it brings you back to your 15-year-old self,
No,
just
it'll
say
be
the word.
great.
Well, you can read CC and I'll read I'll read
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
do
We'll,
it.
we'll do a trade. No, no, I don't want to trade. I don't want to trade. Also, I am also a vegetarian.
Ah, okay. So let's see how you
Perfect.
feel after reading this
Yeah,
book.
I'm very excited. Thank you so much. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I can't wait.
Yes, Summers.
Okay, cool. Excellent choice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So, my choice, well, I don't want to qualify it, but I am afraid you're going to think it's a mainstream choice, but I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why. So it's actually a collection of short stories. Oh, and I'm giving this to you. So pay
Yes.
attention.
Okay.
Okay. It's a collection of short stories by Ted Chiang,
Okay.
who wrote the book, which is actually so the reason I picked this book up is because one of the stories in it inspired the movie Arrival. If you saw
Yes,
that movie that had Amy Adams.
I
Yeah.
did. I love that
It
movie. Yes.
Yes. Okay. It's an amazing movie. It's sort of about like time and aliens, and yeah, it's a very cool, like very high concept movie.
Yes.
So I picked this book up because after that movie came out, they republished the series of short stories originally called Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, and they republished it with the title Arrival, which is not actually the title of the story. So I picked this book up not realizing it was a series of short stories. I thought it was just going to be the movie,
Mm.
basically Arrival, which I loved. And then I started reading it and I'm like, well, hold on. I'm like, where do the aliens come in?
Right.
So it's a bunch of different stories. And some of them I'm selfishly assigning this because I have really wanted to talk to someone about this book because
Ooh.
some of these stories are so remarkable and they have stuck with me. They're just amazing. And the one that Arrival is based on is not even my favorite in here. Although it
Mm.
is also wonderful. Like you could make a feature-length film about each of these stories. And I think there's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. So you can probably find it published as Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, Chiang. But you can also find the republished version, which is just titled Arrival.
Okay. I'm very, very excited. You should know that we have fantasized about having Ted Chiang on as a guest.
Yay!
Yep.
But you haven't read this, right?
I have not read it,
Okay.
and I'm so excited. I loved
Yes.
Arrival. I think I have his newer collection, Exhalation, in my
Exhalation.
yes, it's in my towering stack of books to read.
It's in mine too, and
So
I haven't gotten to it.
yes,
So that's
yes,
amazing.
you have given me a gift here. I'm very excited.
I'm so glad. Yes, and I can't wait to talk about it. And I want you to take note specifically of which one, because their stories are very different from each other.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like I felt like they were almost written by different people. That's how
Mm.
different I experienced them to be. So I'm really interested to see which ones stick with you and stand out to you.
Okay, that sounds great. I can't wait. Yes.
So I know that the rules of the game are that we each give each other one book and everybody only has one book to read, but I'm kind of thinking I need to read all the books.
Yeah.
They're all really
I
exciting.
just need to read all of them.
I'm very excited
Yeah.
about it as well. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Good. Well, so
I'm
I
thrilled.
think
These were really exciting choices.
yes,
This was cool.
this is great. Okay, so I think we should end this because we have to go get our books and start reading.
I'm
Yeah.
ready to start reading right now.
Okay. Thank
All
you
right.
for all the wonderful suggestions. Thank you, both of you.
Yes, you too.
Yes, and more soon.
More to come. Thank you both so much.
Yay.
Yay.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Books with Brooks is produced by Mo Barrow with theme music by Jonathan Allen. Books with Brooks is part of the Press Play Podcast Network, which empowers hosts to create high-quality, professional shows that inspire and entertain. If you've been dreaming of hosting your own podcast, we can help. Please email content@pressplaypodcast.com to get started today. Please be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.